I have been watching anime, and specifically shonen battle anime, since I was born, or I guess it just feels that way. I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't know what Dragon Ball Z was. And yes, that does signal to the absolute weeb that I am at heart, but it also means that I have been drenched in shonen storytelling tropes since I started watching stories. And as my life as a fan of anime has gone through many different cycles, inevitably, I came across the deconstruction of shonen Hunter x Hunter. Pretty quickly, I knew that Hunter x Hunter was something special, and I am so fond of the series that my most popular video on my channel right now is a breakdown of the 85th episode of the show. But there are so many other parts about Hunter x Hunter that I think are worth exploring. So today, I want to discuss one of the best characters in the series, Hisoka. Hunter x Hunter has a fantastic cast of characters, and it is what truly drives forward this long-form narrative. But Hisoka stands out among the many different characters for lots of reasons. Hisoka is at times the villain of the story. Then he is a mentor, and even an agent of chaos. You never really know where he is coming from or what he will do next, but nonetheless, he will always have my attention when he is on screen. Hisoka is also at the same time a borderline problematic character and an absolute psychopath, so I must ask the question, what makes Hisoka compelling? The first thing that stands out has to be his design and presence on screen. When watching any shonen, you know that there are going to be some elite fighters with cool character designs, and those characters often catch my attention right away, even before I know much about them. We are first introduced to Hisoka in the 3rd episode of the series, and immediately is identified as the villain. He and Illumi are the two most influential characters taking the exam, and Hisoka presents this murderous vibe in every shot and scene that he is in. Throughout the Hunter exam, we see Hisoka threaten to kill an instructor and many of the participants taking the exam. Hisoka makes a strong impression not only because of his design, but the murderous vibe he gave off. In the first arc, you didn't really know what he wanted, and because of that, you were interested in what he would do next. Characters often make great first impressions in shonen series. Still, as the stories typically progress, characters tend to get less and less interesting, but that is far from the case with Hisoka. Hisoka starts as a villain in the first arc, but then transforms into a rival and mentor for Gon in the Heaven's Arena arc. Then he is in alliance with Kurapika because of his motivation to fight Chrollo, and an ally to Gon and Killua in Greed Island. And then at the very end, he ends up being a villain again in the election arc. Hisoka evolves with each story arc, and it goes a long way for his characterization. But there is much more to his character than that. Hisoka feels like a reaction to the super strong, muscular shonen protagonists of the 80s and 90s. Using Dragon Ball Z as an example, all of the characters in that series live to fight. Fighting is their way of life. But there is actually a large amount of sexual tension that could be cited in a series like Dragon Ball Z. I mean, you have two muscular men screaming at one another, sweating, and sending beams at each other. And Hisoka feels like he directly comments on that weird sexual subtext in many shonen series. Hisoka, of course, seems to get sexual pleasure from fighting against people when they are at their strongest. And it does become a little weird when Hisoka gets pleasure from fighting 12-year-old Gon. And this is where my mixed feelings on Hisoka start to arise. On the one hand, he comments in a pretty satirical and amazing way about the sexual subtext in a series like Dragon Ball Z, but on the other hand, Hisoka seems to get off to a 12-year-old boy. I also think the criticism of your typical powerhouse character who lives to fight goes even further with Hisoka. Many times throughout the series, Hunter x Hunter pulls back on the temptation to give us the violence that we are waiting for. Episode 85 that I broke down in my other video is a perfect example of that. Hisoka fills this weird desire for the viewer to get the violence that we want. As I stated earlier, Hisoka is a wild card in the story, and at any moment he could start a fight with anyone. And his entire character philosophy is to try and fight people when they are at their strongest. Since the series so often holds back from giving us these fight scenes, Hisoka shares the same desire that the audience does. We want Hisoka to fight the strongest characters he can. So for example, when Hisoka challenges Chrollo, but Chrollo's nen is gone, we feel the same disappointment that Hisoka does, because we want to see Hisoka fight Chrollo just as much as he wants to participate in that fight. I think this is the base of what makes Hisoka compelling. The fact that he is searching for the same cathartic in fights that the audience is. Even with all of this being said, Hisoka is still, without a doubt, a psychopath and does many things that you would think make him a little unlikable. But noted by Jack Pement, I think psychopaths also represent a freedom to act. There are times when many of us become angry or frustrated with ourselves because we somehow failed to act during a defining or critical moment in our lives. Hisoka has an incredible amount of agency in the story, mainly because of his unpredictable nature. In many ways, I think many of us long for that type of agency, adding just another layer to why we root for Hisoka when he is on screen. So Hisoka fills the role of your typical story psychopath, providing that feeling of rebellious nature that we often don't have in our day-to-day lives. Hisoka also comments on the sexual subtext of many traditional battle anime, which is again another reason why he is so interesting in the shonen genre. I don't want to go into where Hisoka is at in the manga, but I think it is worth mentioning that his character progression after the series continues even more, and adds to the reason why he is such a well-written and compelling character. In the end, it may seem a little obvious why we like Hisoka. He has a great design and is one of the strongest fighters in the show. But Hisoka's alignment with the audience's need for violence and his deconstruction and commentary on the shonen genre add to his character. Hisoka's ability to fit any narrative role within the story also adds to the reason why I love him so much, even with his problematic nature, making Hisoka one of the most interesting and compelling characters in all of Hunter x Hunter. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on Hisoka. Obviously, he's one of my favorite characters. He's the banner of this YouTube channel. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.